Okay, so students, now we will be covering the ribs. There are 12 ribs on each side of the thoracic skeleton, okay? And they forms the greater part of the thoracic skeleton. And these ribs are the bony arcs arranged one below the other. And the gaps between these ribs are known as intercostal spaces. The spaces are deeper in front देन बिहाइंड. इट मीन्स कि जो इंटरकॉस्टल स्पेसिस हैं वो आगे ज़्यादा डीप होती हैं एज़ कम्पेयर टू बिहाइंड, एंड दे आर डीपर बिटवीन द अपर देन बिटवीन द लोअर रिब्स. जो ऊपर वाली रिब्स हैं उसमें स्पेसिस ज़्यादा डीप हैं एज़ कम्पेयर टू द लोअर रिब्स. ओके, and as we know, the ribs are placed obliquely. The ribs are placed obliquely in the thoracic skeleton. As we go downwards from first to 12th rib, the obliquity reaches its maximum point at the 9th rib. It means the 9th. So the obliquity reaches its maximum at the 9th rib. 9th rib is the obliquest rib, and the most longest rib is the 7th rib. As we go downwards, the ribs also get widest. So the first 7 ribs are true ribs. Why they are called true ribs? Because the anterior end of the ribs are joined to the costal cartilage, and via this costal cartilage they articulate with the sternum at its facets to form synovial joints. So they are directly articulating with the sternum. So these are known as vertebrosternal ribs. These are known as vertebrosternal ribs. Then comes the 8th, 9th and 10th rib. They are known as vertebrochondral ribs. They are known as vertebrochondral ribs. Why so? Because the costal cartilages of 8th, 9th and 10th ribs, they articulate with the costal cartilage of next higher rib. Means the costal cartilage of 8th rib is going to articulate with the costal cartilage of 7th rib. 9th rib costal cartilage is going to articulate with the costal cartilage of 8th rib. And then comes the vertebral ribs. They are 11th and 12th rib. They are not articulating with anything. They are at its anterior aspect. I mean, at the anterior end of the 11th and 12th rib, they are free. They are not articulating with any other rib. बहुत ज़्यादा गलत बोल रही है. This is your 11th rib and this is your 12th rib. These are known as vertebral ribs. As you can see, their anterior ends are free and they are not articulating with sternum, or even they are not articulating with any costal cartilages. So these are known as vertebral ribs or floating ribs. So we have total 7 true ribs and 5 false ribs. Now we will talk about the ribs of the thoracic skeleton are divided into the typical ribs and atypical ribs. So we are going to divide the ribs of the thoracic skeleton into atypical ribs. We are going to divide the ribs of the thoracic skeleton into the typical ribs and atypical ribs. Typical ribs numbers are from 3rd rib to 9th rib, and atypical ribs are 1st rib, 2nd rib, 10th rib, 11th and 12th rib. So now we are going to do the typical rib. First of all, now we are going to do the side determination of a typical rib. As you can see, a typical rib has a anterior end and a posterior end. It has an anterior end and a posterior end. The anterior end of a typical rib has a concave depression. So this is a rib which is a elongated flattened bone of the thoracic skeleton, and it has 2 ends. This is the anterior end and this is the posterior end. And as you can see, the anterior end bears a concave depression. The anterior end bears a concave depression, and the posterior end, this is the posterior end. The posterior end has a head, this is neck, and this is the tubercle. This is head, neck and tubercle of the posterior end of a typical rib. Now you can see, this is the head, neck and tubercle of the posterior end of a typical rib. Now the shaft, you can see the shaft is convex outwards. The shaft is convex outwards and there is a costal groove. And there is a costal groove situated along the lower part of the inner surface. This is the shaft of the rib and the shaft has an outer surface and an inner surface. The inner surface has a costal groove. The inner surface has a costal groove in its lower part. And so what happens, the lower border of the shaft is thin and the upper border of the shaft is rounded. As you can see, it is thick and rounded and the lower border of the shaft is thin. This is the side determination of a typical rib. So by determining the anterior end, posterior end, its outer surface, inner surface, its upper border and lower border, you can tell to which side the rib belongs to. Okay, now let us come to the features of a typical rib. So as now I have hold the rib and the anterior end is facing anteriorly and the posterior end is placed posteriorly and the costal groove is present in the lower part of the inner surface and the lower border is facing downwards and the upper border is facing upwards. So by this you can say, I can say that this rib belongs to the right side, and if you think that it belongs to the left side, it can never be, as if you think so, the anterior end is placing anteriorly and the posterior end is facing posteriorly, but the costal groove, here you can see the costal groove which is present in the lower part of the inner surface, but here it is present upwards. So this is the wrong determination. So are you clear with this determination that it belongs to the right side? Now the features of a typical rib. Each rib has an anterior end. Each rib has an anterior end and a posterior end. Its shaft comprises upper border and a lower border, upper border and a lower border, outer surface and inner surface. Now the anterior end or the sternal end is oval and concave for articulation with its costal cartilage. The posterior or vertebral end is made up of following parts: head, neck and tubercle. As you can see, the head has two facets. The head has two facets, first facet and the second facet. The two facets are separated by a crest. The two facets are separated by a crest. The lower larger facet, this is the lower larger facet which articulates with the corresponding facet on the numerically corresponding vertebra. As you can see, here must be a vertebra, so the low facet will be articulating with the numerically corresponding vertebra, but the upper facet, it is going to articulate with the numerically higher vertebra. So if I say this rib belongs to the this is the seventh rib, so the low facet of this rib is going to articulate with the seventh thoracic vertebra and the upper facet of the head is going to articulate with the sixth thoracic vertebra. We will show this articulation of the rib and the vertebra when we will be covering the vertebra. Okay, so next is the neck. This is the neck. This neck lies in front of the transverse process of vertebra, and this neck lies in front of transverse process of its vertebra, and it has two surfaces. As you can see in the, if I place the rib in anatomical position, so this is the neck. This is the neck. So it is going to have two surfaces. First one is anterior surface, then comes the posterior surface, and it has two borders, the upper border and the lower border. The upper border, it is also known as crest. The upper border is also known as crest, and it is thin. And it is thin as compared to the lower border. Now, this is the tubercle. This is the tubercle which is placed on the outer surface of rib. It is placed on the outer surface of the rib at the junction of neck and shaft. It is placed at the junction of neck and shaft. It has two parts. This is the medial part and this is the lateral part. The medial part is articular and it forms the costotransverse joint. This part is articular and it forms the costotransverse joint. It articulates with the transverse process of the corresponding vertebra. Whereas the lateral part, it is non-articular. This is the lateral part which is non-articular. Now the shaft is flattened. The shaft is flattened, so it has two surfaces, the outer surface and the inner surface, two borders, upper border and the lower border. The shaft is curved with its convexity outwards. You can see the shaft is curved with its convexity outwards. It is bent at an angle. It is bent at an angle. It is bent at an angle. It has an angle which is located 5 cm lateral to the tubercle. It is bent at the angle which is located 5 cm to the tubercle, 5 cm lateral to the tubercle, and it is also twisted at the angle. Now the outer surface, the features of the outer surface, the angle is marked by an oblique line on the outer surface which is directed downwards and laterally. It is marked by an oblique ridge which is directed downwards and laterally. The inner surface of the rib is smooth and it is covered by pleura. This surface is marked by a ridge. Here is your ridge. This surface is marked by a ridge. This surface is marked by a ridge which is continuous behind the lower border of the neck. See, this rib is going to be continuous with the lower border of the neck. This ridge is going to be continuous with the lower border of the neck. And the costal groove, this is the costal groove. The costal groove lies between this ridge and the lower border of the shaft. The costal groove contains the posterior intercostal vessels and intercostal nerve, and the upper border of the shaft has two lips, the outer lip and the inner lip. The outer lip and the inner lip. Now let us come to the attachments of a typical rib. As we know, the crest lies between the two facets. So the crest of the head provides attachment to the intra-articular ligament of the costovertebral joint. I repeat, it provides attachment to the intra-articular ligament of the costovertebral joint. Now comes to the attachments to the neck. The anterior surface of the neck is covered by a costal pleura. It is covered by costal pleura, and the rough posterior surface of the neck provides attachment to the inferior costotransverse ligament. It provides attachment to the inferior costotransverse ligament, and the two laminae of the superior costotransverse ligament are attached to the superior border of the neck. Superior costotransverse ligament is attached to the superior border of the neck, which is also known as crest of the neck. The lateral part, as we did earlier, the tubercle has a medial part and the lateral part. The lateral part is non-articular as it provides attachment to the lateral costotransverse ligament. As it provides attachment to the lateral costotransverse ligament. Now let us come to the attachments of the shaft. On the attachments of the shaft, 5 cm lateral to the anterior end is an oblique faint ridge which is known as anterior oblique line. This is known as anterior oblique line. It separates the origins of serratus anterior and external oblique muscle. It separates the origins of external oblique muscle and serratus anterior in the 1st to 8th ribs, and in the 9th to 10th ribs it separates the origins of latissimus dorsi and external oblique muscle. It separates the origin of external oblique and that of latissimus dorsi. Now the internal intercostal internal intercostal muscle arises from the floor of the costal groove. Internal intercostal arises from the floor of the costal groove, and the intercostalis intimus. This is the ridge. This is the costal ridge. The intercostalis intimus arises from the middle two-fourths. Arises from the middle two-fourths of this costal ridge. Now, as we know, this is the superior border of the rib. It has the outer lip, and it has the inner lip. The outer lip provides attachment to the external oblique muscle. The outer lip provides attachment to the external intercostal muscle, and the inner lip provides attachment to the internal intercostal and intercostalis intimae muscle.